Right then, settle down, you lot. Stop fidgeting like you've got ants in your pants and listen closely. I'm about to tell you a story that'll make your Nan's Tales of the Blitz sound like a bedtime nursery rhyme. We ain't talking about a scrap behind the Tesco, and we definitely ain't talking about some Sunday League football riot. This is the big one. The proper apocalypse. The kind of day where you wake up hoping for a cup of tea and end up watching gods use planets as punching bags. So picture the scene. We're on Mars, but not the nice red dusty Mars where you might park a rover and take some selfies. No, mate. This is the UAC facility, or what's left of it. The place is a total shambles. It's like the architecture was designed by a bloke who hated angles and loved skulls. Everything is on fire. Literally everything. The floor? On fire. The ceiling? Dripping lava. The air? Smells like burning hair, sulfur, and the inside of a butcher's bin on a hot July afternoon. It's absolutely rank. And the noise? Imagine a heavy metal concert inside a jet engine, and you're halfway there. I'm huddled in a ventilation shaft, right? Knees up to my chin, shaking like a leaf in a gale. I've been surviving on rats and some questionable protein bars I nicked from a dead scientist's pocket. Tastes like cardboard and despair, if you ask me. I'm thinking, this is it, Del boy. You've had a good run. You nicked that gold candlestick from the Slanesh Palace, bad move in hindsight, and now you're gonna end up as a chew toy for a baron of hell. The demons here, they ain't the seductive, whispery types we have back home in the warp. Nah, these are just angry slabs of meat with rocket launchers, ugly as sin and twice as nasty. Just as I'm writing my last will and testament on the back of a chocolate wrapper, the atmosphere changes. The screams of the imps, those little fireball-throwing nuisances, suddenly stop. The air pressure drops so fast my ears pop. And then, blinding light. I'm talking retina-searing, gold-plated, holy moly brightness. It wasn't a red portal tearing reality like a cheap pair of trousers. This was a golden tear, precise, elegant, and absolutely massive. Out steps the governor, the Big E, the emperor of mankind. Now, I've seen pictures, yeah? The propaganda posters, the statues, but seeing the bloke in the flesh, it's different. He's huge. Not just tall, but presence huge. He's wearing that gold armor, the Aramite plate, covered in more eagles than a bird sanctuary. He's got a sword that's literally on fire, not battery-powered, but burning with psychic hate. And his hair? Mate, there is no wind in this facility, but his hair is flowing like he's standing on the cliffs of Dover. Majestic is an understatement. It was pure, unadulterated pathos, level 80. The demons, bless their cotton socks, didn't know what hit 'em. They froze. A whole army of hellspawn, just pausing to look at this golden giant. The Emperor looks around the room, sneering. He looks at a pack of imps the way I look at a cockroach in my kitchen. "Filthy Xenos," he murmurs. His voice wasn't loud, but it vibrated through the floor plates and rattled my teeth. "You infest this reality like a plague." And then it kicked off. The demons, realizing this shiny new toy was made of meat, decided to have a go. Thousands of them. Revenants screaming with their jetpacks, mancubi wobbling their fat bellies and charging their flamethrowers. It was a wall of fire and claws. I closed my eyes, thinking, well, he's nifty, but that's a lot of angry meat. I was wrong. Dead wrong. The Emperor didn't even lift his sword at first. He just raised a hand, palm open, like he was stopping traffic. A psychic wave, invisible but heavy as a collapsing star, washed over the room. It wasn't an explosion, it was an erasure. The first 50 rows of demons just ceased to exist. Poof. Gone. Atomized. Their souls, if they had any, were burnt out in a nanosecond. The sheer psychic pressure was enough to give me a nosebleed, and I was hiding 50 feet up in the vents. The smarter demons, and I use the word smart loosely, started shooting. Rockets, plasma balls, lasers, a barrage that would level a city block. The Emperor started walking. Just walking. Not running, not dodging, walking. The rockets hit an invisible wall a meter from his face, stopped dead, turned around, and flew back at the shooters. It was comedy gold, mate. A mancubus fires a volley, the Emperor clenches his fist, and the mancubus's cannons explode, turning the fat sod into a pile of burnt bacon. I swear the smell of cooked demon almost made me hungry. Almost. Then, the big boy arrived. A cyber demon. You know the type. Size of a house, horns like tree trunks, and a rocket launcher instead of an arm. He roared so loud the glass in the observation deck shattered. The Emperor stopped. He looked up at the towering monstrosity with a look of mild disappointment. "You call yourself a machine?" the Emperor asked, his voice echoing in everyone's mind. "You are an abomination to the Omnissiah, a crude mockery of steel and flesh." The cyber demon didn't care about the lecture. He fired 3 rockets. The Emperor didn't move. He blinked. Teleportation. 1 second he's there, the next he's standing on the cyber demon's head. One smooth swing of the flaming sword. Swish! The horns fly off. Another swing. Swish! The demon's head slides off its shoulders like a scoop of ice cream on a hot day. The body stood there for a second, spurting blood like a fountain, before collapsing. The Emperor hopped off, landing without a speck of dust on his boots. He kicked the carcass, and it crumbled into ash. I'm sitting there, recording this on my data slate, thinking, right, Daddy's home. He's gonna scrub this map clean in 5 minutes, and we can all go home for tea and medals. But then, the music changed. You know that feeling when the air gets heavy? When the hairs on the back of your neck stand up because something primal is approaching? The heavy metal music that seemed to be coming from the walls, it got heavier, dirtier, faster. It wasn't just noise anymore, it was a heartbeat of pure rage. The blast doors at the far end of the hall didn't open, they were punched off their hinges. A 10-ton steel door flew across the room and embedded itself in the wall, inches from the Emperor's head. The Emperor didn't flinch, but he turned, slowly, and in walked the Doom Slayer, the Doom Guy. Green armor, scarred and dented from a billion battles, a double-barreled shotgun in his hands. He didn't look like a god. He looked like a tank that had learned to walk. He didn't glow, he didn't have flowing hair, he just had an aura of anger so dense it warped the light around him. He didn't speak. He just racked the slide of his shotgun. Chick-chack. That sound? Mate, that sound was scarier than the cyber demon's roar. It was the sound of inevitable death. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. His psychic sight scanned the newcomer, and I swear, for the first time in 10,000 years, the Emperor looked baffled. "You are not a demon," he said, tilting his head. "You are human. But your soul, it is a singularity of rage. It burns with an eternal fire. Who is your master, warrior?" Doomguy didn't answer. He doesn't do small talk. He saw a golden anomaly in his facility. He saw something that wasn't human, something that was using magic, something that looked like it belonged in the warp. And to the Doomslayer, if it looks like magic and it ain't saving humanity, it needs to be put down. He swapped weapons. In a blink, the shotgun was gone, replaced by the BFG 9000, the big fracking gun. A ball of green argent plasma started glowing in the barrel. The Emperor's eyes widened slightly. "Interesting technology," he noted. Doomguy pulled the trigger. Bzark! A massive sphere of green death launched across the room. It sent tendrils of lightning out, vaporizing straggler demons instantly. The Emperor raised a hand, creating a golden psychic shield, a kind shield of pure willpower. The impact was like two planets colliding. The explosion sucked the air out of the room and then blew it back out. I was tossed around the ventilation shaft like a sock in a washing machine. When I finally stopped rolling, I peeked out. The smoke cleared. The Emperor was still standing, but he had been pushed back a good 10 meters. His boots had carved furrows in the metal floor, and on his chest plate, right on the golden eagle, a scorch mark. A scratch. A scratch on the armor forged by the master of mankind himself. The Emperor looked down at the scratch. He touched it with a gloved finger. Then he looked up, and a dangerous smile played on his lips. Not a benevolent smile, warrior's smile. "Argent energy," he said. "Dirty, unstable, but undeniably potent. You have my attention, mortal." Doomguy didn't wait for a performance review. He was already moving. And when I say moving, I mean he was a blur. He swapped to the plasma rifle, unleashing a torrent of blue energy bolts while strafing sideways at 60 miles an hour. The Emperor deflected them with swipes of his sword, each deflection sending a bolt of plasma into the walls, melting the steel beams. Doomguy jumped. He didn't just jump, he launched himself. He was in the air, switching to the rocket launcher. 3 lock-on rockets screamed towards the Emperor. The Emperor countered with lightning, actual psychic lightning shooting from his fingertips. The lightning hit the rockets, detonating them mid-air, creating a cloud of fire and shrapnel. But Doomguy came through the fire. He burst through the explosion like a wrecking ball, closing the distance. He was fast, unnaturally fast. The Emperor tried to grab him with telekinesis, to crush him with his mind. I saw the air shimmer around Doomguy as the psychic grip took hold. "Kneel," the Emperor commanded. Doomguy slowed down for a fraction of a second. His armor groaned under the pressure of 1,000 atmospheres, but then he just shrugged it off. He literally flexed his muscles and shattered the psychic hold like it was made of cheap glass. Pure physical strength and sheer bloody-mindedness breaking a psychic lock. The Emperor looked genuinely impressed now. "Your will is formidable," he admitted. "Harder than adamantium." They met in the center of the room, hand to hand. The Emperor swung the sword of the Emperor, a blade that can cut through reality, burn souls, and kill gods. Doomguy activated the crucible, a jagged red energy sword from the depths of hell itself. Gold met red. Clang! The shockwave didn't just break the windows, it cracked the structural integrity of the entire facility. The floor beneath them disintegrated. They fell, locked in combat, smashing through level after level of the UAC complex. I scrambled to the edge of the hole, watching them fall. They were bouncing off the walls, trading blows that would shatter mountains. The Emperor punched Doomguy in the face. Doomguy's helmet cracked, sparks flying. Doomguy didn't even grunt. He headbutted the Emperor back. A headbutt? Who headbutts a god? Doomguy does. The Emperor's head snapped back, a trickle of golden blood appearing at the corner of his mouth. They crashed into the lower levels, right into the Argent Energy processing core. I heard a massive splash. They had landed in the raw energy coolant. Right, I said to myself, checking my pockets to make sure I hadn't lost the golden candlestick. This is getting interesting. I better get a closer look before the whole planet cracks in half. I grabbed my bag of loot and jumped down the shaft after them. I know, stupid idea, but you don't get to see a scrap like this every day. As I fell, the sounds of battle echoed up, metal crunching, energy sizzling, and the constant rhythmic thumping of heavy metal music that seemed to be coming from Doomguy's very soul. They were just getting warmed up, mate. The Emperor was bleeding, Doomguy was bleeding, and they both looked like they were having the time of their lives. Right, you still with me? Good lad. Don't go wandering off to the loo now, because things are about to go from a bit mental to absolute catastrophic bonkers. Where were we? Ah, yes. The Golden God and the Green Berserker had just pile-drived each other into the molten core of the facility. The whole building is shaking like a washing machine with a brick in it. I'm peering over the edge of this massive crater, dust everywhere, coughing up a lung, trying to see if they've killed each other so I can nick their wallets. But no such luck. Or bad luck, depending on where you're standing. Down in the crater, amidst the rubble and the hissing steam, they're standing up. The Emperor's cape is shredded, looks like a moth-eaten curtain now, and there's a dent in his golden breastplate shaped suspiciously like the butt of a shotgun. He's glowing, literally radiating light, but he looks properly miffed. And Doomguy? The absolute madman is reloading his super shotgun. Chick-chack! Calm as you like he's just finished mowing the lawn, not fighting the master of mankind. The Emperor points his sword, the burning blade sizzling in the damp air. "Your weapon is cursed," he booms, his voice echoing off the crater walls. "It reeks of the warp. Yet, in your hands, it serves a form of order. A paradox." Doomguy doesn't do philosophy, mate. He doesn't do debates. He just revs the crucible. Vroom! A red energy blade that hums so deep my teeth start aching again. And then he launches himself. No run-up, just 0 to 60 in a heartbeat. They collide again, and I swear the shockwave knocked my flat cap off. It was like two black holes smashing into each other, sparks flying everywhere, melting the rock into glass. The Emperor is fencing like a god, technical, precise, calculating 1,000 moves ahead. He's graceful, like a dancer who can disintegrate you with a thought. But Doomguy? He fights like a drunk ogren in a Millwall pub, only sober, faster, and infinitely angrier. He doesn't parry, he hits on the counter. The Emperor thrusts, Doomguy dodges by a millimeter and throws an elbow that would derail a train. The Emperor strikes with the flat of his blade. Doomguy takes the hit on his shoulder pauldron and fires the shoulder-mounted grenade launcher. Thump boom! A frag grenade explodes right in the Emperor's face. The Emperor stumbles back, wiping soot from his perfect nose. Audacious, he says, and he sounds genuinely annoyed now. Enough of this brawling. He raises a hand, and suddenly, gravity goes wonky. I felt it up on the rim. My stomach dropped to my knees. Down in the crater, the gravity must have increased 100-fold. A pack of demons that had been trying to sneak up on them just turned into red paste. Squelch, flat as pancakes. Doomguy drops to one knee. His armor is groaning, servos whining like a dying cat. You can see the strain. This is gravity that would crush a land raider, and this bloke is fighting it with just his quads. His veins are bulging, he's growling through his helmet, but he starts to stand up. He's literally leg-pressing the weight of a singularity because he's too stubborn to stay down. The Emperor's eyes go wide. Impossible, he whispers. Your will, it refuses to bend to physics. Doomguy straightens up, fights through the crushing weight, and aims the super shotgun. He fires the meat hook. The grappling hook shoots out, bites deep into the Emperor's golden pauldron. Doomguy yanks the chain, pulling himself through the heavy gravity, flying through the air feet first. Drop kick! A drop kick, mate! Delivered by the Doomslayer straight into the Emperor's chest. The impact sends the Emperor flying backwards, smashing through the reinforced concrete wall of the UAC complex and crashing into the advanced research labs. I'm running after them now. Well, scrambling. I'm grabbing medkits on the way. These UAC stim packs are brilliant. One spray and my Veruca is gone. I'm thinking I can flog these on Necromunda for a fortune. I skid into the lab, and who do I see? Samuel Hayden. You know, the 10-foot-tall robot geezer, or what's left of him. He's lying on the floor, sparked out, missing his legs. He sees me and starts droning on in that bass-heavy voice. You cannot just shoot a hole in the surface of Mars, he says. I look at him. Then I look at the wall where two gods are currently redecorating the planet with each other's faces. Listen, Tin Man, I say. There's two blokes in there dismantling the crust of the planet, and you're worried about a hole? Give it a rest. I spot a shiny chip sticking out of his head. Looks expensive. I'll be taking that, ta very much. I yank the logic module out. Yoink! Hayden shuts down with a sad little beep. Sorry, mate. Finders keepers. Suddenly, the wall explodes again. The Emperor flies in, looking properly disheveled now. He catches a rocket midair with his mind, just freezes it, and flings it into a crowd of pinky demons charging through the door. The pinkies explode into wet confetti. Doomguy steps through the breach. He's holding the Unmaker now. It's a gun that looks like it was designed by a chaotic squid. It fires pure argent energy bolts. Rat-tat-tat-tat! The Emperor conjures a shield of warp fire. The Unmaker bolts bounce off it, ricocheting everywhere. Computers explode, zombie scientists catch fire again, and the coffee machine disintegrates. It's pandemonium. The Emperor realizes that punching this guy is like punching a brick wall that punches back. He decides to switch tactics. He goes for the mind, the mental assault. The Emperor stares at Doomguy. His eyes glow with the power of the Astronomicon. "Show me your fear," he commands, his voice echoing in the astral plane. "Show me your pain, warrior. I will break your mind." And I felt it, bruv. Even from behind a crate of unstable isotopes, I felt the psychic pressure. The Emperor dived straight into Doomguy's brain, and you know what he found? Nothing. Well, not nothing. He didn't find fear. He didn't find doubt. He didn't find a complex plan to lower tax rates. He found one singular, infinite scream of rage. Rip and tear. And, buried deep in that ocean of anger, a picture of a rabbit. A fluffy little bunny rabbit on a spike. Daisy. The Emperor recoiled. He actually staggered back, clutching his head. The mental attack bounced off Doomguy's psyche like a rubber ball off a tank. "Your mind," the Emperor gasps, looking genuinely shaken. "It is pure, distilled fury. You are Angron, if Angron had a purpose. You are a perfect berserker." Doomguy didn't care about the compliment. He saw the Emperor flinch and took the opening. He rushed in, grabbed the Emperor by his golden cape and his waist, and lifted him up. "Suplex City, mate!" The Doomslayer gave the Emperor of Mankind a German suplex. They smashed through the floor, and the next floor, and the sub-basement. They were plummeting down a shaft that led straight to the planetary core. I jumped into the elevator shaft after them, sliding down cables, screaming my head off, clutching my bag of loot. "Wait for me!" Down at the core, it was hot enough to boil a kettle instantly. And there, opening up like a nasty sore, was a hell portal. A real one. And climbing out of it was the icon of sin. Now, if you've never seen the icon of sin, imagine a goat, right? But the goat is the size of the shard, has a skull for a face, no skin, and is wearing metal armor. It roars, and the sound waves alone nearly liquefy my insides. "Who dares?" it bellows. The Emperor and Doomguy landed on the icon's head simultaneously. The icon crossed its eyes to look up. "Get off me, parasites!" The Emperor looked at the Titan. "A large target," he observed, charging his sword with lightning. Doomguy looked at the Titan. He didn't say a word. He just revved his chainsaw. The Emperor smirked. He looked at Doomguy and nodded. For a second, just a split second, there was respect. "Get out of the way, meat," the Emperor telepathically shouted at the icon, and drove his fist into the giant demon's forehead. Crack! The skull fractured. Doomguy jammed a grenade into the chainsaw wound on the icon's shoulder. Boom! An arm fell off. The icon of sin screamed, a sound that shattered windows on Phobos, and started falling back into the portal, dragging the two maniacs with it. "They're falling into hell!" I shouted to no one in particular. The Emperor grabbed Doomguy's arm as they fell. "You do not leave until I am finished with you!" Doomguy grabbed the Emperor by his luscious golden hair. Yeah, the holy Barnet. They tumbled into the red swirling vortex. Gone. I stood on the edge of the precipice. I had Samuel Hayden's brain in my pocket, a plasma battery, and a warm feeling in my chest. Blimey, I said. They've gone to beat up Satan. Below, in the portal, I could see flashes, gold light, red light. The foundations of hell were shaking. I heard demons screaming, not war cries, mind you, screams of terror. They were locked in there with 2 apocalypses. I looked back at the surface. Mars was cracking apart. The core cooling systems were destroyed. The whole planet was about to do a Brexit from existence. Well, I muttered, in for a penny, in for a pound. I tightened the straps on my loot bag. I checked the charge on the BFG 9000 I'd found earlier. Heavy beast, that. Geronimo! I yelled, and I jumped into the portal. I turned on my headcam. Right, viewers. Welcome to hell. Literally. It's hot, it stinks of sulfur and bad decisions, and there are intestines everywhere. But look up there. I landed in a pile of corpses, soft landing, surprisingly comfy, and looked up. What I saw, brother? I'll tell my grandkids about this, assuming I ever meet a girl who doesn't try to eat my face. The Emperor and Doom Guy were standing on a mountain of skulls. A literal mountain. Around them was an ocean of demons. Titans, barons, cyber demons, the whole royal family of hell. And they were dying. They were dying by the thousands every second. The Emperor was shining like a supernova. His armor was wrecked, his cape was gone, but he looked magnificent in his rage. He was throwing psychic storms that evaporated titans instantly. He swung his sword, and reality split in 2. Doom Guy was next to him. He was painted red. His own blood, demon blood, who knows? He was spinning like a buzzsaw of death. R.I.P. Tear. A demon arm flies off. Blam! Shotgun to the face of a cacodemon. Crunch! He tears the jaw off a mancubus with his bare hands. But here's the kicker. They were killing demons, but they were still trying to kill each other. The Emperor throws a lightning bolt at a demon, then curves it to hit Doom Guy. Doom Guy ducks, fires the ballista at a demon, and the ricochet pings off the Emperor's head. Do not interfere with my crusade! The Emperor roars telepathically. Grunts Doom Guy, smashing the Emperor in the ribs with the butt of his gun. And then, he stepped out. The Dark Lord. Devoth. The creator of this whole mess. He's in his big red mech suit, looking like a demonic action figure. I am your creator! Devoth screams. Bow before me! The Emperor and Doom Guy turned their heads at the same time, synchronized like. You? Asked the Emperor, looking unimpressed. You look like the green one, but with a beard and a bad attitude. Doom Guy just racked the BFG. Devoth leaped at them. Big mistake. Huge. The Emperor paralyzed him with a psychic grip. Hold him, he said to Doom Guy. Doom Guy jumped, the Doom Blade extending from his wrist, and plunged it straight into the mech's chest core. Boom! The mech exploded. Devoth fell out, rolling on the floor. The Emperor walked over and simply stepped on him. Your creation is flawed, said the Master of Mankind. Delete. He burned the Dark Lord's soul with a single glance. Hell shuddered. The demons squealed. Their god was dead. Again. But the show wasn't over. The dance floor was empty. The demons had legged it. It was just the 2 of them now. The Emperor and the Slayer. The Emperor was breathing hard, Golden blood was running down his face. His left arm was hanging uselessly at his side. Doomguy had snapped it during the fall. A shard of an argent sword was sticking out of his chest. Doomguy looked no better. His helmet was gone, revealing his face, stern, scarred, eyes burning with madness. His armor was in tatters. He was limping, but they both stood. "You are strong," the Emperor said, wiping blood from his chin. "Stronger than any Primarch. Stronger than Horus. Your rage, it is a perpetual motion machine." Doomguy raised the crucible. The red blade hummed. He doesn't know the word stop. To him, the Emperor is just another high-level demon that needs putting down. "But you have no purpose," the Emperor continued. He straightened up, and the golden light flared again, cauterizing his wounds. "You are a weapon with no safety catch, and a weapon needs a master." Doomguy charged. One last sprint. He swung the crucible, a blow that could split a planet. The Emperor didn't block. He stepped into it. He let the sword pierce his shoulder. God flesh sizzled. I screamed. But the Emperor caught Doomguy with his good hand, right on the face, palm to forehead.
"Sleep!"
The voice thundered. It wasn't a command. It was a law of the universe rewriting itself. The Emperor poured all his psychic might, the power of 1,000 psychers, the will that holds the Astronomicon together, into that one word. He struck directly at Doomguy's soul, not to kill, but to soothe, to smother the fire. Doomguy froze. His hand opened. The crucible fell. Clang! His eyes, that eternal fire of rage, it started to dim. "Your war is over, soldier," the Emperor whispered, staring into his eyes. "Rest now." Doomguy tried to growl, but his legs gave way. He fell to his knees, then to his side. The greatest warrior in the universe slumped over, snoring. Not dead, just switched off. His rage battery had been forcibly disconnected by the will of the Emperor. The Emperor pulled the red sword out of his shoulder. The wound smoked, but was already knitting together. He looked down at the sleeping Slayer.
"Magos!"
He called out into the void. He knew I was there. He always knows. I crawled out from under a pile of skulls. "Yes, Your Majesty. Nice work with the glowy stuff, by the way." "Secure this body," the Emperor ordered, gesturing to Doomguy. "Place him in a stasis field, a golden sarcophagus. He will be useful to us when the Tyranids reach Terra." "Right you are, Gov," I squeaked. And that's how we ended up here. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. We've still got to get out of hell, haven't we? And let me tell you, climbing out of the pit with a sleeping demigod and a bag full of loot isn't exactly a walk in the park. Right, grab a fresh pint, 'cause my throat's drier than a camel's armpit. Where were we? That's it. Hell was collapsing. The Dark Lord Devoth was a smear on the floor. The icon of sin had been turned into a very large, very dead doorstop, and the Doomslayer was taking the world's most dangerous power nap in a stasis field. The Emperor stood there, looking like he'd gone 10 rounds with a blender. His golden armor was cracked, his cape was history, and he was bleeding that glowing gold stuff. But he still looked the business. He looked at the crumbling reality of hell around us, sky falling in, ground turning to void, and simply nodded. "Time to leave," he says, cool as a cucumber. I'm with you, boss, I chirped, crawling out from behind a pile of demon ribs. Just let me grab a few souvenirs. I wasn't leaving empty-handed, was I? I'm not a mug. I grabbed the BFG 9000. Nearly put my back out, I did. Weighs a ton, that thing. I grabbed Devoth's helmet, thought it'd make a nice fruit bowl, and I saw a glowing green canister of argent energy, warm to the touch. Avid, I whispered, stuffing it into my loot bag next to Samuel Hayden's logic chip. The Emperor waved his hand, and a golden portal ripped open. Not the nasty red tear of the warp, but a proper, civilized doorway back to reality. Come, Magos, he commanded. He still thinks I'm a tech priest. I ain't correcting him. You don't correct a bloke who can melt your brain by raising an eyebrow. We stepped through. 1 minute, sulfur and screaming souls. The next, the crisp, dusty air of Mars. We arrived at the rendezvous point. And blimey, what a welcoming committee. Robute Gilliman was there, the avenging sun, the big blue Boy Scout. He's standing there with his burning sword, looking worried. Next to him is Captain Titus of the Ultramarines, looking grim as usual, surrounded by a squad of Space Marines who look like they eat tanks for breakfast. And, of course, a gaggle of tech priests, twitching their mechatendrites and praising the toaster. They all froze when we appeared. Imagine the scene. The Emperor of Mankind, their literal god, drops out of a portal, battered, bruised, covered in demon gore, but alive, and dragging a floating golden coffin behind him. And then there's me, a scruffy little heretic, dragging a gun twice the size of my body and grinning like a Cheshire cat. Gilliman dropped to one knee. Clang! Father, he shouted. We feared the worst. The psychic backlash? We felt it on Terra. The Emperor waved him off. He sat down on a large rock, looking exhausted. The local Xenos threat is neutralized, he said, sounding like he'd just finished a tedious shift at the office. The leadership has been terminated. The dimension is destabilized. My losses? My favorite cape and I chipped a nail. Acceptable. Titus stepped forward, his eyes locked on the stasis pod. The Doomslayer was inside, floating in suspended animation, looking peaceful. Well, as peaceful as a mass murderer can look. His fists were still clenched. He is dangerous, my lord, Titus said, his voice low. I can feel the rage radiating from him. Even in stasis, it's overwhelming. It feels like the warp, but cleaner, sharper. The Emperor smiled. It was that scary smile again. That is exactly why we need him, Captain. When the galaxy burns, when the Tyranids block out the stars, when chaos knocks at the eternity gate, we will wake him up. We will point him at the bad guys and say, fetch. Gilliman looked at the BFG 9000 I was hugging. And what is that? Abomination. I clutched the gun tighter. It's a souvenir, Lord Gilliman. A trophy. The governor said I could keep it. I looked at the Emperor with puppy dog eyes. Didn't you, boss? The Emperor chuckled. Actually chuckled. Let the little one keep it. He jumped into hell itself to follow me. He has earned his toy. A tech priest, looking all rusty and important, slithered over. Magos, he buzzed at me in binary code. That weapon is tech heresy. Hand it over for deconstruction and sanctification. I pointed the business end of the BFG at his metal face. Jog on, sprocket head, I said. This is mine. Touch it, and I'll vaporize your hard drive." The Emperor nodded approval. "Leave him be." So, that's how it ended. The UAC, what was left of it, got rebranded as the Adeptus Argentus. We started harvesting energy from hell, but this time with the Inquisition breathing down everyone's neck to make sure no one started a cult. I sold the BFG to Gilliman eventually. Yeah, I know, I said I'd keep it, but he offered me a planet. A whole bloody planet, mate. It's in the Ultima Segmentum, tropical paradise. I named it Lupra Prime. No taxes, no extradition treaty, and free drinks on Tuesdays. As for Devoth's helmet, it's currently sitting on my mantelpiece. I use it as a soup tureen. Makes a cracking minestrone. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. Before I left Mars, I took one last look at the stasis pod. The Doomslayer was floating there, silent, still. But I swear on my mother's life, mate, I saw his finger twitch. Just a little. He ain't sleeping. He's waiting. He's waiting for the Emperor to slip up. He's waiting for the day he's needed. And when that day comes, when the golden sarcophagus opens, oh, brother, the Imperium thinks they have a weapon? No. They have a force of nature in a box. And if they point him in the wrong direction, there won't be an Imperium left to save. But that's a problem for the 42nd millennium, innit? Right now, I'm retired. I've got my planet, my loot, and this pint. So raise your glasses, you Muppets. Here's to the Emperor for being a hard-as-nails deity. Here's to the BFG for being the best negotiating tool in the galaxy. And here's to the Doomslayer. May he stay asleep just long enough for me to finish my drink. Cheers.